So what do you say we spend a little time in the garden today? All right. I tell you what, it feels great out here today. It feels like spring. I think we're getting up to 77 degrees today. And so it's a great day, now that everything is dried out somewhat, to get one more round of cool season crops in the ground. We're talking about things like cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, and even some kohlrabi. So that's what we're going to be doing today. In this little spot behind me here, I got it nice and prepared. We'll be getting some of these transplants in the ground. They probably needed to go in the ground about a week or two ago, but it was just too wet. Now it's dry enough, so let's do it. So we're going to be working in this plot right here today, the cultivated portion of it. This is where we had some pole beans and runner beans in the fall. And then we took those up and didn't really have anything here for a while. That soil was pretty tight and compacted, so I did come through here with a tiller and cultivate it. We usually only do that once or twice a year per plot. One of those times being usually in the spring right now. So we'll be working right here. I showed you guys this piece in the last video. We had some pretty tall cover crop in here, and that's since been mowed and chopped one time with a tiller, kind of letting all that break down, and maybe one more cultivation ought to do it once we get a little sunlight on that today. So we're going to be working right here, going to be putting in, I think 4 rows is what I can get out of these 2 trays of transplants I have. Had this piece of main line or supply line for our drip tape, which we're going to be using. Had this piece right here, was sitting over there. I think I was using it on my sweet potatoes back in the fall. And so I'm just going to reuse that right here. It's already got the water hose hook up right there. I think I've got all my holes that I had in here. I think there's one right there. I think I've got all those plugged with the goof plugs. We'll find out soon enough when we turn the water on if we need to plug any more holes. But we'll be putting these, I think, on about a 3-foot row spacing. I'm not going to measure it or anything, just kind of eyeball it. And once I start adding stuff to the rest of this plot, we put some squash and cucumbers on that end. I'll just tie into the end of this tubing right here and put a coupling there, and then I'll probably move this water hose hookup, my filter, my regulator. I'll move it, I'll tie in a T more towards the center of this plot so I get a little more equal distribution of water. So step 1, we need to make some furrows to bury our drip tape. If you need to be real exact about this, you can put stakes out there, mark off your rows, draw you a line of string and run down that. Or you can do like me and just kind of eyeball it, average about 3 foot between the rows. Let's do it. Now those rows aren't 100% straight or perfectly equidistant from one another, but for what I'm doing, it's close enough. So if you've been watching the channel for a while, you probably seen me do this or heard me talk about it, but I've got a lot of new subscribers, so I want to describe this system again. So for almost everything we plant in the vegetable garden, we use what I call the FAD system, the F-A-D system. And that stands for furrow, amend, and drip. So we create a furrow here, which we're going to use to bury our drip tape. We just did that with the double wheel hoe and the plow set attachment. And then we want to put some kind of pre-plant amendment in this furrow. Sometimes I'll use chicken manure if I have some. Sometimes I'll use compost. Today I'm using this stuff right here, our complete organic fertilizer, which is basically pelleted hen manure, real easy to sprinkle along the furrow there. So we always want to put out some type of pre-plant amendment. And this FAD system here helps us kind of conserve whatever amendment we're using. So we're not putting it on the entire plot, we're just putting it where we're going to be putting our plants here. Now, in some of my newer plots where the soil was just, you know, terribly compacted in real bad shape, the first couple of years I did compost or add amendment over the entire plot because I was trying to improve the soil workability. Here the soil is pretty workable, no real issues here. So we're just going to amend where we're going to be planting so we can have some initial nutrients in the ground there for those plants to feed off of. We'll also feed them through that drip system as they grow, but this works great as a kind of pre-plant amendment. So use what you got, and if you can't get anything, you can use some of this complete organic fertilizer we have here. I don't have any chicken manure currently or any compost. It's been too wet to go get any, and I fear that the compost yard and my buddy's chicken houses around them are probably still too wet. The last thing I want to do is load a truck up with a couple tons of compost or chicken manure and get stuck. So I am going to get some of those things, just don't have any quite yet, still waiting on it to dry out a little bit more. So we're going to put this down in the furrow today. The rate on this is 1.5 cups per 10 row feet as a pre-plant. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. It's hard to overdo it with this stuff, but we don't want to waste it. And just going to sprinkle along this furrow, and then we'll lay our drip tape. All right, we got the F and the A part of the FAD system done. Now it's time to lay some drip tape in that furrow. As you can see here, I am fresh out of drip tape, so I got to put me a new spool on there. Let's take this one off here. Drop that, and then get this here opened up. We want to make sure we put this thing on here so that that tape is being laid with the emitters facing towards the sun. So that looks to be right there. Put my axle back on here. Slot it in that groove right there. Tighten her up. And then make sure everything's going to be laying here properly. So go down through there, and that's going to lay the tape emitters facing up, which is what we want.
Are you ready, dear? Oh, we must be sure there's no turning back once we're out the door. Leave your message here on the telephone, 'cause we've no idea when we're coming home.
And now we just need to hook our drip tape lines up to our main lines by putting on our row start here. Just slide that puppy on there like that. Tighten her down. Poke a hole in that. And insert our row start, just like that. And then we'll tie off our row ends with one of these little end clamps right here. Just fold it over a couple times, just like that. All right, so our tape is buried, hooked up to the main line. Got a water hose plugged in right there. Got the water on. We can see those drip lines there are inflated. Now we can't tell where the emitters are right now because that tape's buried, but we'll be able to see them soon enough. As soon as that water starts flowing through them, we'll be able to see some water spots there, and that's where we'll put our plants. I got a little bit of a leak right here where one of those goof plugs, they're plugging one of those holes, but I'm not going to lose any sleep over that right now. I'll put a mainline coupling in that in a little bit. Not enough water to really be worried about right now. So let's talk about what we're going to be planting today before we get these things in the ground. So I've got 2 of our 162 cell seed starting trays here full of these pretty cool weather crops, lots of different stuff here. And contrary to what the big box stores may have you believe, you don't need to put a massive transplant in the ground. Something like this is plenty big enough. Now those look dry because they are dry. Day or so before we transplant these, we won't give them any water. They pull out of the cells a little better when they're dry. And that's another way you know when they're ready to transplant, is when they will pull out of the cells easily, like that, or like this right here. Now, like I said, these are probably Should have been transplanted a week or so ago, but they're not really root wrap. We can see those little root training ribs and those seed trays kind of train the roots to go downward. So we shouldn't see a lot of transplant shock with these guys here. Let me tell you what we got. So on this end, we got a variety of broccoli we just added a few months ago called Marathon. Really looking forward to trying. So probably gonna plant a whole row of that. We got some cauliflower here, variety I haven't grown before called Candid Charm. Gonna give that a try. Probably plant a half a row or so of that. Got a new kohlrabi variety called Conan. We're gonna try that. That guy there's pretty dry. He's ready to get in the ground and meet some water. Here we got several different varieties of cabbage and types of cabbage. So this first one here is called Caribbean Queen, and this is a more tropical style flattened head of cabbage. Supposed to make a big flattened head of cabbage. So never grown the flat cabbages before. Looking forward to trying those. Here we have a variety called China Star. This is your Chinese cabbage that folks use to make kimchi and stuff. Also called Napa cabbage. Hopefully we can keep the bugs off those guys. The aphids and stuff tend to eat on those a lot more than they do traditional cabbage. We'll have to keep them good and sprayed with some of our takedown garden spray. And we got this variety here called Superstar. This is a traditional cabbage variety, and I've heard really good things about this Superstar. I'm interested in comparing it to the Cheers and the Bobcat I've grown before. Cheers and Bobcat are my two current favorite varieties, but we'll see if this Superstar can hang with those. And then on the end here we have some Savoy cabbage, which is nice and tender cabbage, variety called Savoy King. I grew it last fall and was really happy with it. So probably going to do one row. We're going to split Savoy King and China Star, because those should come off a little quicker than some of these traditional cabbages. The other row we'll do Caribbean Queen, half Superstar. That'll give us 2 rows of cabbage. Then we'll do 1 whole row of Marathon broccoli, and then probably the other row will split between this cauliflower and this kohlrabi here. So our drip lines have been running for about 15 minutes now. We can already start to see our water spots where we're going to plant. So those drip emitters are located every foot along that tape, and we can see those little water spots. There's one there, one there, one there, and one there, every feet along the tape. So no need to measure anything out. This does our spacing for us. We'll put all this stuff on a 1 foot spacing just because it's easy to do that way with this tape. So we'll stick a transplant at every one of these water spots. So I'm going to start out here with our China Star cabbage. Grab me a transplant, and we're just going to take them, pull them out of the tray like that. We can see where that emitter is, and we'll end up putting that plug kind of right alongside the tape where that emitter is, and these emitters can keep these things fed and happy. And with using the drip tape, we're only watering right here where our plants are. We're not watering all this space between the rows, so we can keep our weeds down, keep everything nice and clean in the garden. And the drip tape does take a little more time to set up than if you weren't using it. A little more initial time investment, but it saves you so much time in the long run of being able to come out here, just hook that water hose up and feed your plants water, fertilizer, whatever you need to give them, and just makes life a lot easier.
Any place we wander to, any season we go through, I'll be fine as long as I'm with you. Heaven knows.
All right, we got them in. Got those plants tucked in there, nice and happy. On this third row here, I didn't have quite enough broccoli transplants to make it to the whole row, so I just topped off the end of the row with some kohlrabi there, just like we've got on the end of that cauliflower row. So we got 4 rows here, 2 rows of cabbage, 4 different varieties amongst those 2 rows, almost a whole row of Marathon broccoli, a little kohlrabi at the end, and half a row of Candid Charm cauliflower, and then half kohlrabi there. And look at there, that's always kind of a good sign. Didn't really leave any transplants to waste. There's a few there of the Savoy King cabbage. I'll probably water those and keep those alive a few more days just in case we have any casualties out here. Hoping we should be able to get pretty good success rate with our transplants here. But if we lose one or two, we can always come in and replace them. So we can see those puppies are getting nice and happy with that water coming from that subsurface drip there. And we'll just let this run for probably at least an hour or so. Get those nice and happy, let those plugs soak up some water because they were pretty dry when we put them in the ground there. Man, it sure feels good to be back out in the garden planting stuff again, even breaking a little sweat out here today. I know it won't be too long before we're complaining about how hot it is, but it was nice to be able to get out here and plant some stuff. Having a little bit of dry weather sure was nice. Now, this stuff we planted here, these cool season crops that we're growing in early spring, we don't get to plant those that often with our weather down here in South Georgia. We pretty much can plant them in the fall, late September, October, and then we can plant around now. So once these are done, we won't have any cabbage, broccoli, anything like that to eat from the garden until later this year. Now some winters, if the winters are very mild, as far as what we normally get down here relatively, we can succession plant some of this stuff throughout the winter, but not this year. It was just too cold down here to do that. So we got one round in the fall and then this round here, and that's it. Now there are lots of other cool season crops I could plant right now and grow in the early spring. I could plant more carrots, I could plant more beets, collards, kale, leeks. I could plant another round of leeks. Lots of good options as far as stuff to plant in early spring before you can really get those warm season crops in the ground. So cool season transplants are in. Next up will be potatoes, then probably followed by squash, cucumbers, then in some particular order, you know, beans, corn, tomatoes, peppers, all that good stuff. And we'll be sure to take you along every time we plant something new in the garden this spring. I know some of you guys are still covered in snow, but I know some of you out there are itching to plant, or you may have already planted some stuff like this. And if you have got one more round of cool season crops in the ground, definitely let me know how it's going for you. I'll put some links below to all the varieties we planted today, so you can head on over to our website and check those out. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give me a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and ring that bell so you get notified every time we come out with a new video. And if you did enjoy this video, check out these other two videos right here. I think you'll really enjoy those as well. We'll see you next time.